Welcome to the Jobs and Work podcast. If you're like most Americans, you spend a significant amount of your time working. In fact, we spend more time at our jobs than anywhere else. But how often do we really talk about work in America? On this podcast, the Work for Change team will. Work for Change, LLC is a team of social scientists, thought leaders, and digital storytellers who dig into the critical issues affecting American workers and workplaces today. Our podcast is co-hosted by Dr. Kendra Jason and myself, Dr. Chris Maycumber. We'll also bring guests onto the show who reflect the diversity of the American workforce. We are so excited for you to join us as we lead the efforts to humanize the workplace by building dignity and equity into jobs, work, and organizations. Please subscribe to the podcast and share us with your friends and family. You can learn more about Work for Change at workforchangellc.com.
Hello, and welcome to episode 34 of the Jobs and Work with Work for Change podcast. Today we have special guest, Regina DuBose. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm so excited.
Thank you. So I'm going to just jump in and just give you such a small part of Regina's bio, and then we're going to talk to her and she's going to tell us so much more. So Regina was born in Detroit, Michigan, educated in the Detroit public school system and raised by a loving family. Ever since she had that first lemonade stand as a kid, she was drawn to entrepreneurship. But then she had her first job as a clerk typist in Detroit, working for Thompson Edwards CPAs, right? That's a really reputable accounting firm in Detroit. And that's where she really received mentorship from someone who is a successful entrepreneur. And we're going to talk about how that changed the course of her life a little bit. So Regina has a bachelor's in psychology, a master's in art. She's been a guidance counselor. She graduated from Wayne State University, graduate studies at Rutgers University. And what I really am excited to have Regina on the podcast today is Regina is in a year of celebrating 35 years of business. And so Regina, I'll tell you now, I've had many small business owners, many special guests on the show. I have never had someone with the longevity that you have had. And so I met Regina poolside this summer, and I heard her story and I said, we got to give you a platform for this story. So, so one thing that, what really encouraged me to invite Regina to the podcast today is that she is an author and she just released 2 books. This one here is Perpetuating Wealth, Secrets to Longevity in Small Business. And then her second book, what's your second book, Regina?
Getting Started with Jesus, the process for spiritual growth and maturity.
And she released these books together at the same time that she's celebrating the 35 years in business. So Regina, let's just start with the books, okay? Because yes. I own this book, right?
Yes, ma'am.
When I saw the name of this book, I said that needs to be in my library next on my nightstand. So what encouraged you to write these 2 books at this time in your life?
So let me just briefly tell you, I've been in business 35 years, and in 2006, I had celebrated my 20th year. Mm-hmm. And I kind of jotted down 12 major things about being in business. I really was trying to start my book at that time. I wanted to franchise my business and be real big, right?
Yeah.
But life happens and nothing materialized. I wasn't able to complete the process. Fast forward to 2015, I had a spiritual mother, a woman in my life who taught me so much about the Bible as I was facing different problems. In fact, there was a group of women, we were in Bible study. Yeah. And she began to die. Her doctor had told her that she no longer, he didn't give her much time to live. She had a serious heart condition. And so I thought, oh my God, this woman in my life, she's about to go to be in heaven. And I've learned so much from her. And I said, it's been a process of these things I've learned. And I went home that evening, this is in 2015, and just started writing down all the things I had learned under her tutelage. Because you can be a Christian, but you have to learn how to grow in the Christian walk. Yeah. So as I was writing these things down, I said, oh, it's a process. She really was training us to be disciples. And she did this and she did that. And I cried on her shoulder. She taught me how to pray. Mm-hmm. So this other book was like coming to being in my way to tribute, to honor her and to thank her and to show people how you can really solve your problems spiritually. So the pandemic occurred in 2020. And when March, everything was shut down, I didn't have anything to do. My small business was shut down. My customers were no longer able to order their T-shirts for family reunions. The whole family reunion business shut down. Right. And by April or May, I said, let me pull this material out. And I started writing and finishing. So I finished both books last year. My mentor mentioned a small publisher, local publisher here in Michigan, Detroit, two sisters writing and publishing. And so I was able to connect with Elizabeth Ann Atkins, who is the CEO of that organization. And I shared with her my stories. And I said, I have 2 books. And she said, 2 books. I was like, yes, ma'am. And so we worked an agreement. And so that's how it happened for me. I have been on a journey to tell people about perpetuating wealth. What it basically means is that continue the process of forward motion. If you have learned to be a great musician, pass it on and teach somebody else. If you have learned to be a great singer, if you've learned to be a great teacher, whatever you have learned in your course of life, you should perpetuate that wealth, because it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be money. You could be a great, my aunt was the best sweet potato pie person in the world. And she taught me how to make her sweet potato pie. So I feel that I can make the best sweet potato pie in the country. And so perpetuating wealth means to take your business, your interests, your abilities, and pass it on. We have too many generations that don't know how to make money, how to save money, how to invest money, how to grow in your business. And so that's what this book is all about, perpetuating wealth. Getting started with Jesus, that's what I want people to do. It's a book that says, even though you're in church, maybe you've been going, serving in the ministry, you can always get started with Jesus and change the problems that you've been having in your life. And the whole Christian process, the whole Christian ministry is about growing closer to God in your relationships. And as you grow closer to God, I personally believe you learn to have the peace of God in any situation. So that's kind of how my books got started, and they are available now. And I'm so excited about this opportunity to share this information with your audience.
So are these 2 the first books you've written?
These are the first books I've written in my whole life.
Let me tell you something. Okay, so these books were just released. I just got this in hand this week. And so I was reading this book. I was so drawn by your story, but how well the story is told. And I started to say, I thought she said this first book. This feels like this is like the 10th book you've written, because it's so, you connect automatically, like the reader connects automatically with your story, and it's funny and it's relatable. And it's like, oh, wow, like it happened like that. And so another great thing that I love about the format of this book is so easily digestible. And so she has these wonderful chapters. Of course, I'll just give you the name of a couple of chapters just to kind of whet your appetite. So she has Go the Extra Mile, Market Yourself in Your Business, Your Health, Your Strength, and Your Right Mind, and then Develop Adjunct Partners. That's just a little snippet of some chapters that she wrote on. The chapters are small. They have these punchlines, these like really nice lessons. You can read this book day by day. Just take one lesson per day. You don't have to rush. It's not overwhelming. It's not dense. It does feel like, when I met Regina poolside, literally, and we started talking about her business, and she said she was coming up on 35 years, and I really said I felt like I was sitting at the feet, right? I was really sitting at the feet of such wisdom, and I was like, she is just not just telling me yours, you weren't just telling me your story, you were also passing on, even in that little, leisurely activity we were doing, you were giving me tips and giving me ways to think about things and talking about taxes and, and all that. And I was just like, and I really love the way you just said, so when you look at the title of this book, Perpetuating Wealth, The Secret to Longevity, you might think about, well, how is it that I can perpetuate wealth in my business, like money and be longer? But your conception is about passing it on. That's the longevity. That's how you build that wealth. And so I think that's just awesome.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you so much.
So let me ask you, because you several times in your book, you talk about your first boss and your first job.
Yes.
What, just in short, what impact did having that first job at that CPA office have for you?
This is so important. I want to go back to my childhood and bring you into the first job that I had. The concept of work and even work for change, which I love your title, was ingrained in us as children. First of all, my parents worked and they got up early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning. My mother worked at the Statler Hilton Hotel. She was a salad girl, and my dad was a tool and die maker at a local factory called Huron Forge Machinery Company. So he had to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning. So my parents were up at 4 or 5 in the morning, getting prepared to go to work. In addition to that, I had two older brothers, 4 years older than me and 5 years older than me, and they were getting up early. By the time I was 7 years old, they were like 11 and 12, and they were getting up, going to their paper route. We had paper routes. Now, there's no longer paper routes in the country anymore, but my brothers were paper boys, and they were excellent paper boys. So our household was getting up, going to do stuff, going to work before we went to school, because my brothers would go and do their paper route before school, and then they would come back at 7 o'clock and we would go to school. And my job was to wake them up on time. So we all had something to do. By the time I was 15, I was in high school, and I was fortunate enough, and I had a decent brain. I was smart enough to go to school half the day and get a job. And I chose accounting because I liked math. My first job was with Thompson and Edwards Certified Public Accountants Firm, which was a small entrepreneurship. James Thompson, Rick Edwards, Jeanette Helene were people that had left Arthur Young and Company. Arthur Young and Company was one of the big 8 accounting firms, and they had been there for a while and for a short period of time, and they started this business. So I was hired in just to type and to do clerical responsibilities, and that's it. Answer the phone, be a receptionist, boom, boom, boom. They said, "Oh, she's so smart. She's really, let's teach her how to do taxes." So then they taught me how to do.
You were the only African American there as well. I was the only. So this is super significant, right?
It was. Oh my God! Let me tell you, whenever we get together, fortunately, Rick Edwards and Jeanette Helene are still living, and they're up in age now. But whenever we get together, Rick and Jeanette, they tell this story about how my dad went down after I was hired. I said, "Daddy, I got this new job." My father went down with me to ensure that, his only daughter was entering into the right setting, because he knew it was going to be with some white people, and it was downtown Detroit. And it was something we never had experienced before. And so they tell this story. Yeah, her dad came in. We never forget how your father came in to check everything out. But anyway, I was the only young African-American Black woman there, and they were all Caucasian, Jewish, and that sort of thing. And they taught me some things in business that I didn't know. For instance, my parents paid their bills with money orders. When I started working at Thompson Edwards, I was introduced to checks, and I was responsible for taking the checks to the bank. I had to make sure that I made the deposits. I did things that I was exposed to in this environment, in this first work environment at 15, going on 16 years old, right? I was young.
I did not know you were that young.
I was young. They gave me a lot of responsibility. I had a key to the door. I was responsible on Saturdays, every other Saturday. Sometimes I had to go in and check the mail, little things like that.
Yeah.
And the more they trusted me to do things, the more I did them even better.
Right.
Eventually, they taught me how to do taxes, and then the rest is history. I still do taxes to this day. And I learned so much about James Thompson was a tax attorney. He was a CPA and a tax attorney. Yeah. And then Rick Edwards was a CPA, and Jeanette was an accountant. And then Sophie, she was an accountant. I just had a great environment in working and learning how to do business and how to do taxes and how to be an effective clerk typist at that stage of my life. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You know, what I've in reading your book, you know, I don't know if someone's told you this yet. I don't know how many hands this book is in, but this book needs to be like in some type of Detroit museum, some type of archive or something, because it really, one thing that she does, which is awesome, which made me think about it, is it really does talk about the history of Detroit a lot. And you have these wonderful pictures from community events, you know, from when you started your business. And I was like, this feels like something that should be in some type of, not museum, I don't know what would be the right format, but just some type of archive.
Yes.
Because you have really captured the spirit, I believe, of Detroit, especially, you know, like I'm in the South and we have ideas and about Detroit, but one of the long-standing ideas is small business and Black-owned businesses, and you captured it in a way that's just beautiful. So tell us just a little bit about the Alexis Company. Regina sent me this beautiful shirt and her celebration shirt here. Tell me just a little bit about Alexis Company. I think it's going through transition right now too, as well, right?
Yes. Let me just briefly tap on a couple of things. In Detroit, if you are African American, there are many opportunities for you to have a business and to do well. We have some great museums. In fact, my event was held at the Detroit Historical Museum. And my next goal is to get my business in that museum. So your book. We have the Museum of African American History in Detroit, the Charles H. Wright Museum. Then we also have a wonderful public library. So there are some great opportunities for my book to be placed at those institutions. And I'm just kind of waiting and hoping as the COVID season settles down and, you know, things kind of reopen for real, I can have my book in those places. The Alexis Company started as a way to make a little money. It was not something that I sat down and said, I'm going to have a business. I didn't write a business plan and go through all those motions, but I was going through some marital bliss. And someone came by, a friend of mine from New York City, and told me he was running around the country selling Michael Jackson gloves. Quit his job. I said, really? And so that led me to meet another young man named Jeffrey Turner. Jeffrey eventually sent me some T-shirts to sell during the Tigers World Series, which occurred in 1984. And that was a bang. And then Jeffrey said to me later that same year in 1984, Prince is going on his major Purple Rain tour. And he's starting the tour in Detroit because the Detroit fans have been so great to him. And we sold these little light up roses during that tour. And as a result of that one product, it led me into business.
Right.
By the time Prince ended his tour, my brother and I were so busy selling these light up roses all around Detroit at cabarets, anniversaries, different parties. One lady said to me, "Can I buy the flowers from you? I don't want you to come to my party." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds good. I can wholesale these things." And that kind of started us to look for a store. And the business was opened in 1986. By 1989, people started coming in asking for T-shirts. I kept saying, "No, we don't do T-shirts. No, we don't do T-shirts." Then one day I just said, yeah, we do T-shirts, whatever. And I didn't have a T-shirt.
30 years later.
35 years later, our T-shirts became our major staple. We not only print T-shirts, we do sweatshirts and jogging suits and jackets. We eventually became an ASI distributor, advertising specialty distributor, where we can do keychains and cups and mugs. And so the business has taken off. I reached a point of going through many ups and downs, trials and tribulations, errors, mistakes, but you learn when you do. Taking care of my mom, encouraging my family members, my daughter. And so at this stage of my life, the pandemic came. And I kept saying, "God, what are you saying? And God said, get completely organized. Go ahead and finish your books. So I finished writing my books. And then after I finished the books and hired the publisher, I was like, I don't have to do this anymore. I'm going to tell everybody how to sustain their lives, how to have peace, how to be wealthy, and sell my books and let my books be my platform. And so, yes, that has led me into transitioning. I announced at my 35th anniversary, the new president of the company and the new vice president of the company. So my thing right now is teaching and giving them all of the wealth, all of the excitement, all of the information. I'm transferring over all of the knowledge, my customers, into their hands so they can take it and run with it starting in 2022. And I'm so happy. I'm just glad to be able to do that, to be in the position. In fact, the new president, he said, I'm so used to being behind the scenes. I said, no, it's time for you to be in front. I'm going to help you get there. Yeah. But I just want you to know that whatever you have, you can pass it on easily, smoothly. It doesn't have to be where you have to die or somebody has to get sick or somebody leaves abruptly. And I think when we start thinking about generational wealth, longevity, buying power, when we get to those levels of thinking like that, then you can understand what perpetuating wealth is all about. Let me just say this, Dr. Kendra. At my 35th anniversary, it was a phenomenal event because the keynote speakers were African-American women, too, who both family businesses have been in business 100 plus years. So that was major in Detroit. Carla Cole is the president of James H. Cole's funeral home for funerals in Detroit. They've been in business 101 years. They celebrated their 102 years. They celebrated their 100th year in 2019. And then Miss Laura Stovall is the business lead and legacy preserver of Hot Sam's men's clothing store in Detroit, Michigan, downtown Detroit, Michigan. And they celebrated their 100th year of business this year. And the Detroit Historical Society, the place where we had the event, is celebrated 100 years. So you add my 35 to it, it was like 335 years of longevity, of preservation, of success, of history, of money that was being celebrated and releasing these books. So I'm just excited and thankful that you have allowed me to just share some of this with your audience. And you're wearing my shirt, so.
Hey,
thank you. God bless.
I started reading this book. I said, I gotta wear this shirt. I want to read one, if it's allowed. I want to read one quick excerpt from this book because this is really what captured my sort of amazement with you and your story. She says, Jeffrey called and asked if I would go downtown to the stadium, stand on the corner and sell t-shirts. Mind you, I had a degree, a job, and a baby. I was separated from my husband and I had neither the knowledge nor the reputation of standing on the corner to sell anything in the city of Detroit. Still, I said, I'll give it a try. Well, my fear suddenly turned into fear because won that night and the fans bought all the t-shirts that Jeffrey had shipped. And so, I just love that so much because you was like, wait a minute, I got a degree, I got a baby, I got a house I'm trying to manage, and you want me to sell some t-shirts? This wasn't the plan. So I just read that because I wanted to ask you, for people who are if they're thinking about entrepreneurship, they've had this spirit, for so long, but they're not sure how to move forward or if it's okay. What advice would you give for someone who's considering or who's a little fearful of that next step?
That was a very shocking and fearful moment when he asked me to go stand on the corner and do that. And you hear this all the time, risk. Yeah. What are you willing to risk to be an entrepreneur? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to do above and beyond what everybody else is doing? Yeah. And that's the key. Somewhere in your brain, somewhere in your emotions, somewhere in your thought processes, you have to say, you know what, let me just try it. Yeah. Nobody else is doing this. Let me just step out. We say step out on faith. We say a lot of different terminologies for it, but it means doing what you don't know. Do the unknown. Do the unknown in spite of what you hear, in spite of what you see, in spite of what your mind, in spite of the fear. And when you step out on faith, when you take the risk, when you stop and say, I'm going to do this and see what happens. Yeah, do it and see what happens. What is the result going to be? It can only be good, right? Because nobody else is going to do that.
Yeah.
Think about it. No one else is going to take your business idea and develop it, cultivate it, grow it the way you are going to do it. And so, yeah, that element of taking the risk, no matter what, and what, because we always want to know what's on the other side, right? We prayed and asked for things to happen. We'll ask our husband to do these, but then we don't go ahead and do it ourselves. Yeah. And that's not faith. Faith means you don't know what's going to happen, but you believe in what your ability to do. So I think that's the one thing I would say, as for any new entrepreneur, any current manager, any old entrepreneur, someone who's been in business and they're just trying to rekindle the fire with this COVID season and the pandemic, aftermath of the pandemic, you have got to take the risk that no one else is thinking about doing. And do you know, to this day, other people have seen my business. It's been 35 years. We've been at festivals, we've been at different events, bazaars, conferences. And to this day, no other person is duplicating what we do. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I told my new president, I said, you are going to run this business to the next level. And then you're going to train somebody behind you. And we're going to celebrate 100 years. I might be in heaven, right? I'm not going to hell. I know I'm not going to hell. I'm not going to hell. I'm going to heaven. Mm-hmm. But the Alexis Company will celebrate 100 years. And because that is the mindset, that's what generational wealth is all about. It's all about passing it on. And so, I would say any entrepreneur, take the risk, step out boldly, have the faith. There's one other thing that I like to add when you are new and starting business, and this has been so important. The biggest challenge in small business is finding the right help, good help, motivated help, and perfect help at the right time. Woo. And we see this right now. I'm driving around Detroit and everywhere I go, not even in the city of Detroit, in the suburban cities, help wanted, now hiring. There's such a need for small businesses to have people working for them. And so I am thankful that over the past 35 years, I've had family, friends, neighbors, professional people. I talk about that in my book, Adjunct Partners. It's so important to have good help when you take that risk and know that God will provide people to help you build your empire. Now, I want to just give a few shout outs to some of the people in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes. First of all, thank you, Dr. Kendra and your team for allowing me to be on your program, Work for Change. I really want to say hello to Miss Renee Jones, who I met initially as a customer through my daughter. I did some family reunion teachers for her. She's the president of the African American Historical Genealogical Society. She has come on board. She's on my committee. She's helped me sell books, and I'm looking forward to seeing her in Charlotte during the Thanksgiving season. Mrs. Renee Jones took my information to her group, and someone named Jill Allen, I don't know this lady, but she bought 10 books. She bought 10 books from me, and I can't wait to see her when I come to your city. And then the Urban Reader Bookstore, I think the owner name is Sonia Spencer. She's an old native Detroiter who I met also, who's planning to have my book at her store. So I can't wait to meet and visit and see all of you when I come down for Thanksgiving in a couple of weeks. So
thank you so much. So the first thing you need to do is to get Regina's books, okay? So Regina's social media handles and website are right below here. You can click on that so that you can purchase both of her books. They're super affordable, but they are, like I said, I love this book. I can't wait to get into your second book, as well. If you want to reach out to Regina so that she can talk to a group that you have, a one-on-one, her contact information is below as well. So you can sit at her feet and you can get this wisdom in a way that's applicable to you. And then also, Work for Change, we have our Starting Your Own Business workshop, which the next one is going to be on November 20th. It's a 2-part workshop. And what we really focus on in those Starting Your Own Business workshop is getting you from idea to business plan. But in that first part, we really want you to understand who you are in business and what makes the business yours. Like anybody can you're not in competition with anyone else because no one can do it the way that you will do it. It's just like Regina said. So please sign up for that workshop so that we can get you set up for 2022 and you can start year 1 of 100 like Regina's doing right now, right?
Yes.
Other than that, thank you for your time this morning. You can find Work for Change on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course you found us here on YouTube. So please like, subscribe, and share so that we can work to make the world of work better. Thank you again, Regina.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless you.